So Dale, can you hear me? Rose, can you hear me? Awesome. Thanks, Dale. Appreciate that. All right. So it's been quite an intense day actually. Just out of curiosity, does anybody have a high school senior right now? So if you have a high school senior, just chat in what grade your students in, and we can start to kind of tailor this to you guys. Okay, so we got okay. Dale has a first year, a freshman in college, and then a junior in college, it looks like, or a junior in high school, perhaps. Okay, junior in high school. Thanks, Dale. Okay. All right. What about all right? Yeah. So again, it was quite a day today, so we're starting a little bit later. I said we were going to start at 7:45, and I just want to make sure that everyone gets some time to get on the call. So I'm going to be doing a keynote speech on Saturday morning for a financial planning firm, mostly for their clients, but a lot of other people are invited, and I'm going to be up there for about somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes, and I was just working on the presentation, and I figure while I'm doing that presentation, I should just also share the conversation with you guys. Some of you guys have juniors, some of you guys have seniors, and why not just use it as opportunity to talk to you as well. We're gonna we're gonna make this pretty open. I have, obviously the talk that I'm gonna do on Saturday, but if you guys have any questions, just let me know. There's so many things that we can talk about. You know, um, we can talk about what you should be doing if you're a high school junior in order to get into to set yourself up to get a scholarship. We have a couple students right now we're working on, even though they're juniors, by December we should already know if we got a couple scholarships in the bag, and that's how you want to be set up. So I was talking to a junior in high school today, and one of the couple of things we're doing is we're trying to plan out an extracurricular activity for him that we know is going to set him apart, um, because one of the schools he wants to go to is University of the Pacific in their pharmacy pre-pharmacy program, and we're trying to get a $35,000 a year scholarship for him. And we're already looking at some of the requirements, and one of the big requirements is going to be leadership experience. So we're having to pick organizations like, so he's going to create a UNICEF um, chapter at his high school. We're going to fill that chapter up with about 30 members. We're going to plan out, basically the entire year so that we can use that accomplishment in our essay. And a lot of people think that getting a scholarship to go to a four-year university has, everything to do with how you turn in financial aid forms. And it's important, obviously, to not mess that part up. The worst is when you've done everything and then at the very last second you've kind of blew it just turning in the financial aid forms incorrectly. But it has a lot to do with, I'll put it to you this way: if getting in is tough, getting a scholarship is even higher in the big leagues for most people. There's two main ways that I get people free money to go to college. The first one is, by using, formulas that can determine if a college has the money to give you or not based on your income and your assets. The second formula is based on your kid's grades, test scores, and their resume. So, the first thing that I do is I look and see which avenue we want to go. And the earlier that we find that out, the better off we are, because we have time to get a running start in order to make this happen. So, all right, looks like we got a couple people coming in. Somebody said the page that for you to register went down. Yeah, that's a page where, it's just for registration. So it kind of, the website kind of kills that page once the webinar is open. But if you want to forward the email that you got, All you got to do is tell anybody that wants to get on this to go to joingotomeeting.com. That's join, Join, joingotomeeting.com. And let me type it in for you guys. Join go to meeting.com, and then the meeting ID is 336-087-573. So just send them that, and we got enough to pretty much get started. So again, sometimes I do webinars where I'm really just delivering to you the talk that I think everyone needs to see and everyone needs to hear, because it sets the outline and the overall approach that we're taking to getting a scholarship. Sometimes I'm just going to do a webinar that talks about how to write a good college essay. Like for instance, seniors are writing essays right now, and we're seeing their writing skills and what they choose to talk about, and we're determining if that's a good idea to lead with. Sometimes I'll talk just about, how to find out if a college has enough money to give you. That's when I'll show you how to get on the internet and look up a college and see what they would offer to you and your family. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Sometimes I'm just talking about timelines. Sometimes I'm talking about cases. So this one's going to be the main one, but, feel free to type in any of your questions that you might have. See a couple familiar names, and yeah, so let's just go ahead and get started. All right. So, let's take a moment to, even remember why we're here. We're here because we want our child to have a bright and promising future. Think about your future. This is what I tell a lot of my students. Spend some time thinking about what the future is going to look like, because if you don't spend any time thinking about that, you may or may not get it. I mean, your future is going to happen. So I was talking to a student that she wasn't sure if she wanted to be a OBGYN, a medical doctor. And she says, hey, I'm not sure if I want to go through 10 years of school. And it was just funny because, all I really said was the 10 years are going to go by either way. So you might as well figure what you're going to do at that time, right? So, and, this is so that they can become successful in life. And if you're like most parents I know, from the time your child was born, you wanted them to be happy and have a good life. Perhaps you wanted to, them to go to a good college so they can have opportunities. Maybe you wanted them to go to Stanford or UCLA or USC or one of the Claremont colleges, or maybe you wanted them to go to Georgetown, Princeton, all those kinds of places. And, why do we want them to get a great education? Well, the reason why is just so they can have opportunities, right? I was just talking to a friend of mine who is he's a hiring manager. She's an executive at DirecTV. And she was sharing with me that she doesn't even look at candidates if they don't have a college degree. And all it really says to her is that that this person can complete, something that they've set themselves on. But, even if you're coming in with, 10 years of experience working at, Disney Corporation or several other places, she's not going to consider that applicant. And that speaks a lot to the kind of opportunities that you can have access to by getting an education, right? We want them to build a career. We want them to have their dream career. We want them to have their pick. We want them to be top talent so that they can earn a living for themselves. And they no longer have to become dependent on their parents. And that's all well and great, getting into such great universities and, getting all these opportunities to be a success in life. But, we know getting in is hard, but we're also trying to get significant discounts off the cost of attendance. And the reason why we're trying to not pay full price for college is because college is charging between $100,000 to $300,000, and that's a lot of money, especially if you have a lot of kids. So, I was talking to a parent of triplets maybe about I don't know, a month ago, and so she wants all her kids to go to these top level universities like the ones you're seeing on this screen, and she's looking at $900,000 in college expenses. So we had our talk and we were able to save her about $600,000, so get her about $200,000 in free money for her triplets to go to school. But the point is we can't just be focused on getting in. We have to be focused on what it costs as well. unless you have, like $200,000, $300,000 in 529s. In that case, then you can focus on getting them in and just make sure that they don't drive up the bill when they get there. But we're doing this as a two-pronged approach. Okay. So, and the good news is that we can make all of that happen. We can help you to, you can get your kid into a really good school, school that you'll be proud to say that they came from, and you can make sure that they also don't end up costing arm and leg. Somebody just typed in, yeah, somebody said, triplets is good, Yeah, so, yeah, a lot of people don't realize, and yeah, this is a family that made a decent amount of income. They made maybe about 275. And for them to even find out that there's $200,000, getting ready to be sent over to them if they just apply to a school that has the money, that was news to them. And, I spend a lot of time just trying to explain to people, what their options are, and they can do that. So great job, Dale. Definitely. So, if you don't know me, my name is Trevor Ramos. I'm known for helping parents and students get into a good college, get $40,000 to $224,000 for each of their kids to go to school, and help them to pay for school while minimizing student loans. Student loans are anywhere between, on the very, very low end, and these are the loans that have caps on them around 4%, 3.6%. On the high end, they can be as high as around 13%, 12.99%. And that may sound like a high interest rate to you, or it might sound like a low interest rate. The way the student loans work is if you're going to borrow 200, $300,000 to go to a good college, and then they want that money back in 10 years, and at a rent interest rate that is twice, the average person's mortgage, it means that your student loan payments could be the size of your mortgage if you're not careful, especially if you have multiple kids going to school. So this is how to send your kids to the best, most expensive colleges in America for pennies on the dollar. And I'm always trying to, come up with these talks for you. Um, if you can chat with me, whether your kid's a freshman in high school, a junior, a senior, um, if you have more than one kid in college, that'll help me to kind of tailor this conversation to you. As for the high school senior, excuse me. So for a high school senior, this is the time. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the timeline that we're working off of. Okay. So someone who's a senior in high school, it is beyond crunch time for them. They have 45 days, 44 days to get their applications together for UCs. The Cal State applications will open up in 13 days. And private schools, depending if they're applying early or if they're applying regular decision, they can be due as early as 27 days from now. Some will be due, in about 100 days. And that's if you're turning them in pretty much at the last second. So, I've sent you an email about this, talking about this whole process is really on a first come, first serve basis. So you want to make sure that you are one of the first people to turn in an application to a school. If you want to apply to a UC and your kid is a senior right now, the UC is required two essays, 500 words each, right? If you're applying to a Cal State, there's no essay, but it's basically first come, first serve. So as soon as that application opens up, you want to turn in your application. So most of my students at this point have all their application filled in. They're just ready to put the submit button on. Okay. And then for the private schools, you know, we do want to turn that stuff in early as well. Number one, because most of the schools have some kind of priority deadline that they use in order to see who they really want. And there's usually scholarship money attached to that if that school has the money to give you. And for instance, USC will take an application all the way up until January, but if you want a scholarship, you need to turn in the application by December 1st or November 30th, however you want to look at it. Okay. And then financial aid forms are due in 105 days. So that's when we want to have all of our tax paperwork together. We want to know when we turn in our financial aid forms, how much these colleges are expecting us to pay. Right? That's the name of the game there. And if your child is a junior, then you just add 365 days to that, you know, or you can just add 12 months to that, So 12 months and 44 days, right. For the juniors, a really important thing is that PSAT. Even if your kid is not a great test taker, you want them to take the PSAT so that they have demonstrated that they are college bound. There are colleges that monitor who takes that exam, and those students get materials like postcards and emails to these students offering them scholarships. All you have to do is respond. If you do well, really well on that exam, then you will already have about 25 schools that are willing to give you a full scholarship. Okay. So how do we get the money? We get the money by avoiding costly mistakes. And the first most important mistake is, having bad assumptions about this whole thing, thinking that, the time to start thinking about getting a scholarship is the last 4 to 5 months of your kid's senior year. The time to think about getting a scholarship is at least 12 months before these applications are due. Or ideally 12 months before these applications are due. If your kid is applying to school this year and you got about 2 months to put it together, you'll find a lot that this webinar really tells you all the steps you need to take, but you really want to start this as early as possible because if it turns out that you have a lot to do, you want to piece it. Okay. So first is the costly mistakes. The second is, we need to learn what makes a college offer you scholarships and grants. Okay. And that's by not by asking your neighbor what they got, but really doing the stuff yourself in order to see what they're going to offer you, because someone who makes the same amount of income as you, lives in a house that's worth the same as you are, maybe right next door to you, is not going to get the same offer necessarily. They could, and if it is, it's really serendipity, but for the most part, there's so many factors going into this stuff that it's very easy to see two people with the same situation that are getting completely different outcomes when it comes to paying for college. Okay, so we want to learn how to calculate how much money a college would offer you before you apply. Okay, and if you think you make too much income to get money, or that your kid's GPA is not good enough to get a scholarship, or the cheapest way to send your kid to college is to go to community college, or have them drive to school and live at home, or that filling out a FAFSA is what gets you the money, you want to pay very close attention to what we're going to talk about here. So our game plan for today is simple. We're going to find colleges your child can attend. We're going to find out how much these colleges cost, and we're going to find out what steps you can take to get the college to pay for you to attend. Hope that sounds good to everybody. Okay, so very briefly, you may already know my story. My parents are teachers, and I had a younger brother that wanted to go to college. I thought I was going to get a scholarship by playing sports, so I spent a lot of time working out, and to the detriment of my grade point average. So I only had a 2.8 GPA. I didn't even think about the SAT score until the summer before my senior year. So I didn't have great SAT score. This was okay. Wasn't terrible, but it was okay. But the point was is that I couldn't see how my parents could pay for me to go to college without borrowing the money. Just the math didn't add up for me and my brother. So my advice, I went to my counselors, and I had one of those counselors that had a lot of students. They just told me to go to community college, and they told me to be cheaper, that my grades and test scores were too low, and I didn't see anybody that was going to community college finishing in 2 years and transferring to the kind of schools that I am talking to you about. Okay, so what I saw was people that were starting their lives out after about 2 to 3 years of going to community college, and getting their first part-time job, starting to earn a decent amount of income, wanting to buy their first car, and all of a sudden they have all these expenses that prevent them from ever, you know, being able to go to back to college full time anyway. Okay. So, that was me. And, I wanted to go. We're in an election year right now. Fortunately, I did not catch much of the Republican debate last night. But, my dad is a political science professor and professor of history. So I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about that. But, you know, when I was going to school and applying to college, we were in an election year as well. So I was paying attention to the candidates and where they went to school. And I didn't want to, turn this into a whole political thing on the internet, but I just want you to know that there is an extreme correlation between where your child goes to school and what kind of opportunities that they're going to get. And I recognize that at a very young age just by looking at where these people went to college. So the school I wanted to go to was Boston University, cost about 200 grand. Fantastic. So what did I do? I knew we didn't have $200,000, and we sure didn't have $400,000 for two kids to go to college. So I made some sacrifices. I quit the football team and the track team, and I spent hours in the libraries, coffee shops, and bookstores pulling, all-nighters almost every week for months. When I go back home to Texas and I look at the bookstore that I spent all this time in and the libraries, it feels like home. And the reason why I felt like home is because I made it my home. And I don't expect, any parent to chain their kid to a desk and have them take a bunch of SAT problems or to study. We want to do this in the most simple, shortest path from point A to B, but that's kind of what I had to go through because I didn't have any direction. I was just going off of sheer willpower. And I focused on my grades, I focused on my test scores, and I focused on finding out what colleges wanted to see and what they're willing to pay for. I also became what you would call an admissions stalker. So I met the admissions person at Boston University at least three times, and just I tried to get him to say anything useful. He was really the only person that was helpful. I also talked to the admissions person at Harvard and at Columbia, but they were just encouraging me to apply. They didn't really want to give me some real answers in terms of what I had as a chance of getting in there. And but the BU Boston University guy was very helpful. In fact, I still talk to him to this day. What I learned because I sold all my stuff on eBay in my closet. I had a PlayStation, back in those days. I sold that. I sold a lot of my stuff in order to be able to afford to visit a bunch of colleges. And that was probably one of the best decisions I ever made because it made me very seasoned by the time I came back into my senior year of high school. What I learned paid off for me. I got 178 grand to go to Boston University. 165,000 of it was free money I didn't have to pay back, and I got more money than basically the smartest kid in my high school, who ended up going to UC Berkeley but he was living in Texas. And if you're from Texas and you go to UC Berkeley, at the time for him it was about $48,000 a year, and they don't really give a lot of money to out of state people because they need out of state students to really fund the in-state students. California has some really great universities, and the tuition at these UCs and Cal States is almost a profit center, for the state. So that's an important point right there. Say if your kid's looking at Indiana University or University of Washington or University of Idaho or Michigan, you have to know Penn State. These are state colleges that will charge your child out of state tuition and may not have the money to make up for the increased price. So you really want to pay attention to that and, first check to see if they do give money to people from California because there are schools that like to give money from people in this state. But your child very well might be looking at a list of colleges that, are all going to charge you double the price that they charge most of the people that attend there and have no intention of giving you any extra money in order to make up for that fact. Okay? So, but I got a lot of money. I lucked out, you know. Um, I graduated college and I became a college planning specialist. My major was accounting. My first job was to work for a financial planning company. Much like the company I'm going to be speaking at tomorrow. Um, and they just told me, hey, if you somehow know how to save these people hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you can do that for our clients, they'll be pretty happy and they won't have to liquidate their 401ks and IRAs and mortgage their homes in order to pay for that. So, why don't you just start a little, book of business and helping out our clients? And so I did that, and I helped a lot of people. I learned a lot that the biggest lesson I learned is that, you know, your expenses somehow always rise to the occasion of your income. So I saw a lot of people from really high-end areas that were making three, four, $500,000 and literally had, you know, I would see people that made $400,000 and had $398,000 in expenses, and they would have nothing saved, and they would have high mortgages. So I would see somebody that, made $400,000, maybe they owed $120,000 in taxes, and then they had a mortgage that was, 12 grand a month, a 15-year mortgage somewhere in, Pacific Palisades. And, they would send their kids to private college, and that was about $3,500 a month. And by the time you add it all up, they their negative cash flow. And, sometimes, you know, their expenses have already exceeded their income and they haven't even eaten yet. So, it's really important when you go through this process to make sure that tuition is not the cash flow eating monster that it can be for a lot of people, and everyone recognizes that. Okay. So I started to create results for these people, and it was really fun, and it still is fun because I do it to this day. Getting people, like last year we got a kid. Right now UC Santa Barbara is 35,000 a year. We got a kid $32,000 a year in scholarships. Um, we have another girl that's going to Boston College. Boston College is about 60K a year. She's getting $40,000 a year. It's not bad, you know. And this is what we do, and it's really fun to do. And the best part about it is just seeing the confidence that these kids have once they see that a school is willing to offer them 100 grand, whatever they're willing to offer them. So, then I wrote a book and started doing a lot of writing and media and so forth. And, my company is, we help you to find the right college for your child, because getting a scholarship to a school that doesn't have any connections, doesn't have the track record of building a career, is not what I consider a win. We want to go to some really good colleges that can provide your kids with some credibility and credentials. We also want you to pay as little as possible for college tuition, and we want to plan out how you're going to pay for college without taking on a lot of debt, getting buried in it essentially, spending all your life savings, all the money that you have. So maybe you do have money. Say you got $1 million saved up, you know, but that $1 million is probably for your retirement, right? Trying to make sure that you're not spending all that, sending all your kids to college. And, I don't want you to have to go back to work or to, work any longer than you have to in order to make sure your kids go to school. There's some people that the truth is that, I mean, just given where they are right now, they're going to be working until they're about 75. And for some of them, even when they're 75, they're still going to have to figure out how to get some kind of part-time income in order to make the numbers work. And a lot of the times the reason is because they spent unnecessarily hundreds of thousands of dollars sending their kids to colleges, and which is noble. At least they didn't waste it on something silly. But we can be smart about this because it's starting to get so expensive. You really got to think about what you're doing. So this is one of my students. His name is Alex, and he's going to Johns Hopkins University. Again, I'm not trying to make this too political, but that's where Ben Carson, is known for medical wise. Um, if I'm not mistaken, pretty sure. No, he went to Yale. I think he also went to Johns Hopkins. So Johns Hopkins is, it was about 60K here, and this kid's getting 47,900 a year to go to this school, and his younger sister is also going to UC San Diego. She's getting about $20,000 a year, and yeah, that's $191,000 for this kid, $47,000 a year, almost 200 grand to get an education, and he's earned it. This is another student, Nadia. Nadia, she was just in Italy last semester. I think she's back at her main campus, but her her parents had two older children. One was going to Cal State Fullerton, the other was going to San Bernardino, and they're paying full price for both of those kids. And Nadia wanted to go to the super expensive school, so they found me, and we got her $54,000 a year, or $217,000. Which allows her to travel. Like I said, she just came from Bologna, Italy, and really get those kinds of opportunities, which are expensive. So the first thing is you want to find colleges that your child can attend. So, I mean, that's really step one, is to really put a list together for your child about what colleges they want to attend. These days, I'm seeing students and they really don't have any idea what colleges that they want to look at. So I'm having to spend time putting together a list of colleges that are appropriate for their major, appropriate for where they want to go to school, and so forth. And I'm happy to do that. But whether your child is honestly in the seventh grade or they're a senior in high school, they need to at least be have their antennas up for a college that they want to go to. Because once you know what college you want to go to, you can start to see what the average person looks like that can actually get into those colleges. So if your kid wants to go to Stanford, then we need to know what kind of SAT score, what kind of grade point average, what kind of uh, classes, what kind of leadership experience does this kid need to have in order for them to be a serious candidate at Stanford? And that goes for anyone, for any school. Even if you want to go to a school that perhaps may be a easier school to get into, which, it's not easy to find these days that are, that's worth going to. Um, but even with them, we have to make sure we're hitting those benchmarks, especially if you want to get a scholarship there, because in order to get a scholarship, you're going to need to be a strong candidate. The second thing we want to do is we want to find out how much these colleges cost, which I've alluded to a little bit, right? So how much does college cost these days? So, an important vocabulary word is called the cost of attendance. The cost of attendance is the yearly cost to attend a college. So often when I bring up a cost, you'll hear me say that USC is, say if I say USC is $200,000, sometimes you'll hear me say USC is $60,000. Well, how can it be both costs? Well, one cost I'm using, a 3 year number, the other cost I'm using a per year number. And it's really important for you to kind of get that. And the other important thing is when we talk about cost of attendance, this is the yearly cost to attend the school. We're talking about tuition, books, room and board, personal expenses, fees, transportation. We're talking about all those costs because there will be those costs and we have to be prepared for them. And the way this whole financial formula of how these schools give you a scholarship is based on the yearly cost to attend college, which includes more than tuition. So we have four universities, great universities. We got USC, we have UC Berkeley, we have Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, we have University of Washington. And by the way, like I definitely see a few people on this webinar that have seen me speak before. Again, like I'm saying, I'm going to be speaking, doing a keynote presentation on Saturday at 100 Corson Street for a company called Heidelbeil and Associates. And you're more than welcome to attend. I heard there's going to be champagne, food, all kinds of cool things there. But feel free to ask me any questions that you have. Maybe you have some sticking points. Maybe there's some things that from the last presentation that you wanted to talk about. I'm more than happy to kind of weave that into all this stuff. But here's the drum roll. How much do all these schools cost? And I've mentioned a few of them, but let's get clear on it. USC right now is, how much is it? USC is, it says $270,000. That's 67. I got my calculator here, 556, 67 times 4. Whoops. Yeah, about $270,000 to send one kid to USC. And it goes up. If your kid's a junior, just use 69,000 because it goes up by about 2 grand a year. And let's just be prepared for that. Okay. UC Berkeley, for people that are in this state, UC Berkeley is 33 grand a year or $133,000. If you're not from this state, UC Berkeley is going to be about 55 grand a year for you, and that's $220,000. Okay. What about Cal Poly San Luis Obispo? I love Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for engineering, for anything STEM related. Usually, I mean, I'll send students to Cal States, but every time I do, I'm very concerned about whether that kid's going to graduate in 4 years because a lot of these Cal States, Most of the kids are graduating in 6 years. So about 50% of students at Cal Poly Pomona are graduating in 6 years from a 4-year college. And the reason why is because, the state is having a hard time fulfilling the demand and staffing the people in order to graduate all these kids on time and give them the guidance so that they're not switching their majors all the time. Cal Poly slows, it's 97 grand, about 24 grand a year. And I talked about, University of Washington. University of Washington is a out-of-state public school, very good university, very good university. Um, to us, it's a 48 grand a year. If you're from Washington, it'll be about 25, about the price of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. But if you're from California and your kid's looking at University of Washington, we're looking at 48 grand a year or $192,000. Okay, so we need to know what the cost of attendance is at every college that your child is considering. We need to know that. So milestone number 3, find out what steps you can take to get the college to pay for your child to attend. This is the fun part. So the first way, like I said, it's 2 ways that I get people money. It's merit based off of their academic merit, or it's based off of their the family's income and their assets, and how the financial aid forms will how the college will, what the college will offer someone of that income and asset category. Okay, so merit scholarships, you know, so here's a list. If you guys don't have the book How to Get Free Money for College, you should definitely get it. I have it as an ebook. If you just go to my website, you can enter in your name and email, and it will email you a PDF copy of the book. It's very important because it has all the top colleges that give out all the money. Really important list. So these are the colleges that give out full rides. So if you have a really strong candidate, you can have them apply to school and get a full ride. I have a student right now that we're working on getting him a scholarship to Duke, um, a full scholarship to Duke. We have him looking at Boston University, Johns Hopkins. That's going to be a tough one just because it's a very competitive university overall. And on the next page, we already know that he's going to get a full ride to University of Alabama. I don't know if you heard about the kid last year that got accepted to all 8 Ivy Leagues. If you remember him, he got accepted to all of them: Brown, Princeton, Yale, Dartmouth, all of them. And he chose to go to University of Alabama because they gave him a full ride. And some people think he was crazy for doing that, and some people say that that really reveals how smart he really is, because he wants to go to medical school as well, and that's going to cost him some money. Point is if I saw this student and I was having a meeting with him, I could have told him what was going to happen. In fact, I could have showed him a list like this and showed him what schools he could have gotten a full scholarship to attend. In order to get a merit scholarship, you want to be in the top 25% of all applicants. Okay? What does that mean? That means if the average person is going to that school and they have a, you know, 1800 SAT score, that means that you want to come in with about a 1950 in order to be able to get a merit scholarship to attend that university. Does that make sense? That's to get any merit scholarship. If you want to get a full ride, you need to be in the top 1 to 5%, talking about, your resume, your grade point average, your SAT scores. Okay. And some schools will explicitly state who they give the full ride to, meaning that you got to have a 33 on your ACT, you got to have a 2000 on your SAT, and if you got that, we'll give it to you. We don't care how much money you make. As long as you got these test scores, we're going to give the money to you. Okay? And, that's important to know because, the reason why it's important is because there are some schools where you only need to have, let's say, a 27. You don't need to have a perfect SAT, ACT, or SAT score in order to be one of their top scholarship candidates. You might just need a 27. A 27 as far as an ACT score is a really good ACT score that will definitely qualify you to get anywhere between $15,000 to about $30,000 a year in scholarship money, depending on what college you're looking at. Getting a 27 on your ACT is not enough to get a full scholarship to, Stanford for sure. but it's definitely good enough to get a pretty decent sized scholarship at Loyola Marymount, at University of Redlands and so forth. So we're at least starting to get into the ballpark. A good SAT score would be about an 1800. Once you start hitting an 1800 on your SATs, then you'll start to get the attention of schools, and schools will want to offer you some money to go. Or you have good grades too. Some schools don't look at SAT scores now. For instance, George Washington University, they no longer require test scores for applicants. So if I have a student that has good grades but they don't really have good test scores, maybe they're not great test takers, maybe they kind of panic a lot, or they have a lot of test anxiety, we'll create a list of schools for them that don't look at their test scores. So the other way we do it is the other way we get the money is through need-based grants and scholarships. Okay, and the way we do that is we want to find out how much you're expected to pay for college. That's what you're expected to contribute for college. And the way you do that is by completing a financial aid form ahead of time. What you can also do is you can fill out a net price calculator. So write this down. Net price calculator. You want to go on Google, search a college, and then type in net price calculator. So search UCLA net price calculator, USC net price calculator. You need to do this. Okay. This will give you an idea of what that school is going to offer you as an out-of-pocket bottom line number. You don't want to wait until it's time for you to fill out a FAFSA to find out how much you're expected to pay. Most people, that's when they fill it out. And by the time that happens, it is too late, because you're going to have about 3 to 6 months to come up with the money. And by that time, your child has already chosen all the schools that they want to apply to. You want to know how much you're expected to pay for each of the schools your child is applying to now. So when you do fill out the real thing, the real financial aid form, the real FAFSA and CSS profile, these are financial aid forms. It calculates how much you're expected to pay per year for college. So you might go and fill out this thing. This is a PDF old version. You can go on the website. I just wanted to show you a PDF of it so you can see kind of what kind of questions they ask and so forth. And really, you want to recognize that this is just a calculator that determines how much you're expected to pay based on all the questions that you answer on this form. But you go on the website and you type it all in. It'll pop out a number that says this is what you can pay. You can pay $47,000 a year. You can pay $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year. So we want to know what that number is now. So that number is called your expected family contribution, and it is tattooed on you. And they say, Lynn, this is what you're expected to pay per year for college. Okay. Now your number, say your number is $24,000 a year. When you go to one school, it'll say, okay, you're expected to pay 24. We can make it to where you only pay 24. Or another school will say, hey, I know that you're expected to pay 24, but we just don't have the money to bring our $60,000 price all the way down to 24. We can bring it down to 38. Hope you say yes. So we want to know this number, and the way you find out what you're expected to pay is you go on Google and you type in EFC calculator. So I gave you two things there. One was the net price calculator. If you type in a college, say Pepperdine University, net price calculator, it will give you a calculator that will determine what you're expected to pay at that college. But if you want to know the number that bottom line price that Pepperdine offers you is based on, you want to find out what your EFC is, your expected family contribution is. And the way you find out what you're expected to pay at every college is you type in expected family contribution calculator. And it will ask you some of the same questions that a Pepperdine might ask you if you're using their net price calculator, except it is the number that is going to be used at all the different universities. Important number to know. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be confused. You're going to go to UC Berkeley and it'll say, hey, UC Berkeley is only going to charge me, say UC Berkeley is going to charge me 20 grand. But why is it that when I go to Pepperdine, they're charging me 15 grand? What's going on? Well, it's based on your expected family contribution. And these financial aid forms you fill out every year. And even though, say, you might not need to turn in financial aid forms for another year or two, it is important for you to know what you're expected to pay. So that number, when you fill out that financial aid form or you fill out that expected family contribution calculator, that number that comes out can be anywhere from zero to $999,000. And this is a per year number. So some of you might fill it out and it would be zero. Awesome. We'll show you what that means. For some of you, you might fill it out and it's $999,000. So what do you do? Okay. And see, what you're expected to pay is the same at every school that your child is looking at. Two people with the same income may have a different expected family contribution, the number you're expected to pay. Now, you might have a $10,000 family contribution. You say you fill it out, it says you can afford $10,000 a year. It doesn't mean you're going to pay $10,000 a year at every college. It just means that the college, that's the minimum that you're going to pay. Okay, so you might fill this out and it says you can pay $10,000 per year. And if you look at the list of colleges that your child is going to, you're going to see that, hey, this school wants to charge you 15 grand. This school wants to charge you 20. In fact, let me show you really quickly what I mean, if you don't mind. If you don't mind. Hope nobody minds. I'm going to show you what I mean here. So this is kind of what we do is we just find out how much money each school that our kids are looking at is going to pay. Let's pull up this one. I think this is the right one, hopefully. I didn't plan on doing this, by the way, but I'm just trying to make this helpful. So let's just hide this here. And so this person, when they fill out their financial aid forms, they're expected to pay 12,814 per year. Okay. Hope you can see this. Okay. So say they're looking at University of Hartford. Hartford is 50 grand a year. They're expected to pay 12, but they end up paying 24. Why? Because Hartford doesn't have all the money to bring it all the way down to 12. But, let's just say Oberlin College can, or USC can. This number is the minimum that you're expected to pay. Okay? All right. Hope I made that point for you guys. Okay. Let's get back to our regularly scheduled program, and we're gonna start moving a little bit quickly. Okay. So there are 6 factors that affect what you're expected to pay. It's your parent income, your parent net worth, your student's income, your student's net worth, the size of your household, the number of kids that are going to college. Just type in EFC calculator and it'll ask you all these things so you can see what you're expected to pay. Very important number. Um, the fastest 5 months of your life. This is the important part is most people don't find out what they're expected to pay until their financial aid forms are due. And these financial aid forms are due, like the last day to turn it in is March 1st. That's when most people find out what they're expected to pay. But what's going to happen is the following month of their kid's senior year, they're going to see how much all these colleges are going to offer them. They're going to see kind of like on that spreadsheet, oh, this school is going to actually charge me twice as much as I thought I was supposed to pay, right? And then they're going to have, a few days to pick which college, and then they're going to have 3 months to come up with the money. This is not the position that I want to put you in. I want you to know this stuff ahead of time. I don't want you to be surprised. The truth is a lot of people are in for a big surprise once they finally see that tuition bill, and we want to be aware of that now, and we want to know what we can do about it so that we're getting the most free money that we can get. And the system is designed so that you don't find out what you're expected to pay until after your child has been accepted to college. So I always bring the story up of, the TV show Parenthood. And in this TV show, the girl, she walks in the living room. She's excited because she just got into Cornell University, early acceptance. And there's all this congratulations. Everyone's so happy for her, And But as soon as she leaves that room, you see this look on her dad's face of serious concern because now he's saying, wow, she did it. I can't believe she did it, because Cornell is one of the hardest schools to get into, but how are we going to pay for that now? It's like a brief period of joy and pride followed by a serious moment of concern of how you're going to pay for this super expensive private school. And that's how it's set up. It's like a puppy dog close. Is they make your kid fall in love with this nice campus, and then they show you the bill after they've gotten accepted, and they say, hey, by the way, you got a couple months to come up with the money, but we're sure you're good for it. And if you're not good for it, don't worry, we got student loans to offer you. We'll offer you all the student loans that you need. And they won't tell you that it's going to take you 10 to 25 years to pay that back. And the payments with the kind of numbers we're talking about are going to be the size of your mortgage. No one's really telling you that but me. Okay. If you know what you're doing, you're going to find out what you're expected to pay before your child selects colleges. Okay. So let me briefly give you an example. So this is someone who makes 150K a year. Their net worth is about 50,000. They got about $50,000 saved. They got 50,000 under the kid's name. They're still expected to pay $44,000. And the reason why is because that $50,000 under the kid's name is driving the number up. So if they put that into the parent's name, then they're expected to pay 36. And you can keep working this and working this and working this until this family is expected to pay $7, $8, $9,000. So this just one thing saves them, 7K a year, $30,000, not bad. There's a lot of, right now there's a lot of divorces going on. About 50% of America has had at least one divorce, and divorces can be expensive themselves. Um, Not to mention that if you're going through a divorce and no one can agree on who's going to pay for college and how much, or one person can't really be counted on, or whatever the fact is, when you apply for scholarships and financial aid, you need to know whether the college is going to want both of you guys to pay for school, or if they're only going to want the person who um, is claiming the child as a dependent. And you have to agree on who's going to claim the child as a dependent. I just had someone in my office this month where it was clear that if we used one parent as a dependent, that to claim the child as a dependent, they would pay, about $7,000 a year. Um, but if we used the other one, we were expected to pay $25,000 a year. And if the child applied to a school where they were asking for both parents to pay, that it would be about $70,000. That's the difference that, this kind of stuff makes. We're going from 7,000. Some colleges are going to charge this person 7. Some of them are going to charge this person 25. Some of them are going to charge this person 70. And it's really important to know which ones, right? So not everyone's divorced, but it is important to know that. So this is an example. So if they file with the mother, it's almost 8K. If they file with the father, it's 88, and if they file together, it's 120 something. People that own a lot of real estate have assets, hard assets, corporations and things like that. They also need to be aware. So I had a dentist. She had 2 practices, and if the college is asked how much those practices are worth, she doesn't get any money. But if they don't, then she gets a lot of money. And here's an example of this is a chiropractor. Family owns about 120, and this is the building that they use for the chiropractic office. And the way it was set up, is that this building looked like a personal asset when it was a business asset. And if it's a personal asset, they're going to want some of that money to be contributed towards college. They're going to want you to liquidate some of your assets in order to pay for college. Or, I mean, wherever the money comes from, they don't really care. They just, they just look at what you have, and then they see this is what you're expected to pay. But if it's a business asset, then, and they ask for, they may not need the value of the form depending on what questions they ask you. So there are some schools that don't want you to use any business assets to pay for college. There are some schools that have no problem, right, asking you for to use some of your business asset or including that into the formula. So, in this situation, that's a difference of about $5,000, $6,000 or so. So someone just typed in a question here. Oh, Dale's saying after plugging in a variety of numbers, it looks like typical EFC comes out to 30 to 40% of the family's income. Yeah, it depends. It depends on a lot of different factors, Dale. But right now we're talking about need-based data. About half my clients, if they run this calculation, they're expected to pay 900. They're expected to pay way more than any college is going to charge them. So I don't always use your expected family contribution, but every single person here needs to know what they're expected to pay. So if you fill this in and it says you're expected to pay 40 grand, 30 grand, and it turns out that there's another avenue that we can take that would have you pay a lot less than that, then we want to be aware of that now, right? So anyway, so yeah, and there's different stuff that you do for each person. So if someone's income is 500K, um, and for some reason, there's a lot of people with 500K that don't have 300,000 saved for each of your kids to go to college. So what do you do in that situation is you got to find a school where that kid is in the 75th percentile, or that kid has some talents that we can use to get some money so that we can bring this cost down. Or, you have someone that if they do this, they have a low family contribution, you know. So it's a sliding scale, in terms of what your income is and how it relates to how much you're expected to pay. So instead of giving you general rules, just go in there and use your own expected family contribution. I don't know if you fill this thing out what you're expected to pay, but I do want you to know what it is so that we can start. And I also want you to know what colleges your kid is looking at and how much they cost so that we can start to put a plan together. So, this person makes 300,000, got about a million net worth. They have five in the household. They have two kids going to college. They have two kids going to college. So this is what they're expected to pay for each child, 39,000. Okay. And the way the formula works is whatever the school costs per year, which is the cost of attendance, minus when you fill out your financial aid forms, what you're expected to pay, equals how much you need. Okay, it's called your financial need. And the question is does the school have the money to meet what you need? Okay. I hope I'm not losing you here. I don't know if showing you that spreadsheet confused you or anything, but I hope you're staying with me here. So if a college is going to give you money and meet your needs, say you need $20,000, and they'll say, okay, you need $20,000. Can they give you the $20,000? And there's two ways that they give you that money. They can give you the money in free money you don't have to pay back. Those are called grants and scholarships. They can also give you work study. They can give you federal student loans. And it's important to know because some schools are, they give you more loans than they do free money. Even though they give you quote unquote financial aid, they give you a combination of the two. You got to be aware of that. So there's three questions you must ask every school. Number one is what percent of need do you meet? So let's go back. So if a school costs $50,000 a year and you're expected to pay $10,000 per year, that means you need $40,000. You follow me? So if a school costs $50,000 per year and you're expected to pay $10,000 a year, it means you need $40,000. But the question is that school going to give you all 40,000? Are they going to give you 20,000? Are they going to give you zero? So we want to know what percent of that, say $40,000, that school is going to give you. What percent of need do you meet? There are schools that meet 100% of need. There are schools that meet 0% of need, and there are schools that meet everything in between. How much financial aid do you offer? How much of the financial aid that you offer is gift aid versus self-help? So say we say, hey, okay, you're going to give me the $40,000 that I need, all of it. Okay, great. Well, how much of it is free money? How much of it is money I have to pay back? How much of it is gift aid? How much of it is self-help? And they might say, all right, well, like say for instance, USC. USC is typically about 85% free money, 15% money you have to pay back or work for. So if it says that USC can offer you 40 grand, that means that, what's 40 times 0.85? That means that 34,000 of it will be free money you don't have to pay back. 16,000 of it will be some form of work study, student loans, all those kinds of things. Just a ballpark number. You can find that out by doing the college's net price calculator if you've already got a list of colleges going for your child. And then how long does it take to graduate? That's really important because a school could be charging you $20,000 a year, $25,000 a year, but the average person is taking 6 to 7 years to graduate from them. I mean, when you do the math, it turns out that if you send your child to a $30,000 college and they graduate in 4 years, it actually costs less for them to go to a $30,000 college for 4 years than for them to go to a $25,000 college for 6 years. Obviously, even 30 a $35,000 a year college that truly graduates their students in 4 years costs the same as a $25,000 a year college that graduates their students in 6 years. Okay, so this is back to the case again. This person makes $300,000 a year. You got $1 million net worth. Their household size is 5. They got 2 kids in college. They're expected to pay 39 for each of their kids to go to college. We apply our formula: what the school costs per year minus what they're expected to pay equals how much they need. And the question is what will that college offer them what they need? So, I use Pepperdine as an example here. Let's say this family is looking at Pepperdine. Pepperdine in this example is 62 grand a year. This person was expected to pay 39,000 a year. They need $22,000 a year. Is Pepperdine going to give them $22,000 a year? That's the question. And I just went through my cases, and I actually had one like this. It's a family of accountants, really smart people, and they make 276, worth about 800,000 total, and their family contribution is about the same. So I used them as an example, and this is their award, and they're getting grants, which is kind of mind blowing, for some people to see, someone who makes over $200,000 getting a grant. Came out to about 21,896 per year, free money, and over the 4 years that comes out to 87,000. So I'm not going to show you this one because but I'm going to show you this one that we were just working off of. So the point is that of the colleges your child is looking at, many of them you can be expected to pay the same amount, but what you pay can be very different. Okay? And that's just important to know. So we want to have a list of schools going and then find out what they're going to cost and then find out what we're expected to pay. And if what you're expected to pay is, say, $40,000 a year, these numbers will change. This school chart is less than 40,000, so obviously it's not going to work there. There are schools that will give you scholarships. So say if your number is $999,000 and you don't qualify at any of the schools that you're applying to apply to, then we need to start looking at what schools your child can, get a merit scholarship to attend and what they can do right now in order to make sure that they can do that. And by doing that, then you can get a good scholarship to a really good school and start saving a lot of money by doing that. Okay? So again, we want to find out what schools your child can attend, find out how much these colleges cost, find out what steps you can take to get the college to pay for your child to attend, and find out how much you're expected to contribute for college. And if you go through all these steps, then you're going to find out, how to get the most out of, each of the colleges. And another important point is, here we got one kid. I changed the names. This kid's name is Chris. He's got they go to the same high school. This kid's got a 2.6, which is not a great GPA. His family's expected to pay 24,000. They end up paying 25. That's he started as a junior. Here we got another kid that, goes to the same high school. He had a 3.5 and he was expected to pay 5,600, but they end up paying 25. So why is it that they end up paying the same even though one kid has a better GPA and they're expected to pay less? Well, the reason why is because this kid started 14 days before the last day to turn in their forms. And everyone kind of involved needs to be aware that you don't want to start right when the last day is to turn in your forms. That's the biggest mistake that you can make. It's the most costly mistake is thinking that I'm going to start figuring this out when the financial aid forms are due, right? So we've covered a lot, in this workshop, and I encourage you to, make plans to attend the event on Saturday that we're doing. It's through Heidelbiel and Associates, 100 Corson Street. If you want, just go ahead and give me a call, 626-657-7887, and I can get you the details. You can just probably Google Heidel, Haydel and Associates. It's a Pasadena firm, and they're going to be about, I think the maximum is 50 people in that room, but you're more than welcome to come. You'll learn a lot, and you'll get to ask a lot of questions. So the thing is, though, is you got to take action with this stuff. As great as this information might be to you, we haven't gotten any money yet, and we're not going to get anything until we start going through all the steps and start seeing where we're at, how much money these schools are going to offer us, and what we're expected to pay. That's the important part. And if you wait too long, then you'll end up trying to figure this out when everyone else has already gotten their offers and your child has already applied to all of their colleges and so forth. So we want to do that. There are so many phone calls I get, the second semester of high school where all these parents are surprised by how much they have to pay, and there's not much I can do for them. In fact, usually there isn't anything I can do for them. So every month counts, especially if your kid's a senior or junior. We got less than 18 months. In some cases, we have less than 2 months to get this whole thing wrapped up. If your child is a senior right now, in 6 months, you will already know how much all these schools are going to cost, not the projections, the real cost. Okay. And if you're a junior, it's 18 months from now. But, with the time that you have, you can really make something happen. This is a kid that got $39,000 a year to go to George Washington University. This girl, she got $183,000 to go to Claremont McKenna. This is her sister. They get the same award. I just got a referral from her yesterday. Um, and this is a student that went to St. Francis, and he even got $111,000. Wasn't an A student necessarily, but he worked hard and he followed directions, so he got the money that he needed. So I hope you guys learned something. Usually I ask for evaluation forms, but you can just send me an email and let me know your thoughts. I do 2 to 4 classes a month, either a webinar or a live workshop. Again, I'm telling you, I'm doing a workshop on Saturday from 10 to 1. I'll only be there I'll be up there from 10 to about 10:45, but you're more than welcome to come. What I'm able to offer you guys right now is a few spots on my calendar for a consultation. So if you need a meeting with me, it's free. Your first meeting with me, just give me a call, and I'll ask you for some paperwork that I need in order to find out how much you're expected to pay for college. I'll be able to coach your student and tell them what they need to be doing in order to get a scholarship, and you can ask any personal questions, anything that you need in order to find out, what the objective is and, how much money you can save. If it turns out I can save you more than $60,000, for each of your children to go to college, then, I'll talk about working together. If we work together, I help you find the right college. I help you pay as little as possible on tuition. I help you plan out how you're going to pay for college without getting buried in debt, spending all your life savings, having to work till you're, in your 70s and sacrifice your current lifestyle. That's what I do. I do it day in and day out. And this is what my calling is. So there's a limit to how many people I can help. I don't have too many spots, especially available, this month because of all the deadlines that I'm dealing with. But I want to offer you that so you can get some direction, so you don't spend countless hours going down the wrong alleys, that you don't visit all these colleges that are going to charge you $70,000 a year. That's why I did this. This is just a rehearsal for my workshop that I'm going to be doing on Saturday, but I figured if I just spent the time talking to you about it, that you would get some benefit out of it as well. So I offer the consultation again. We figure out what, tight ballpark of what you're going to pay for college. I talk to your child about what they need to do to get the money. I answer personal questions, and if I can save you at least $60,000 for each of your children to go to college, then we talk about working together. If I can't, then we just use that hour telling you what you can do in order to save as little as possible. So say you can only save 20 grand, then I'll just tell you what you need to do in order to save that 20 grand, right? So if you're interested in consultation, like I said, I'm doing away with the evaluation form on this webinar. Just send me an email. What that is, send me an email. And my email is Trevor. You probably get a decent amount of emails from me by now, right? And my phone number is 626-657-7887. And I send you those emails because I don't want you to ever experience what it's like to owe that much money. It's not fun. Sometimes I get parents that tell me, I had one kid telling me a secret when they were leaving, that their parent ended up picking up smoking again because she's so concerned about how she's going to pay for college. And I've had many clients tell me that, before they met me, they would wake up in the middle of the night thinking about this stuff. That's totally unnecessary, and that's not what I want for you. Oh, the screen's looking kind of messed up here. So let me go back and fix that. So anyway, send me an email if you got any questions. Give me a call, and I'm more than happy to help. And we'll schedule a meeting more than likely. We'll schedule a meeting more than likely in order for me to, reserve the time in order to find out how much scholarship money you can get. And there's a number. So, we'll talk briefly, figure out if I can help. If I can, I'm going to email you a questionnaire. And this is going to allow me to find out how much money you can save. Meetings, they're either at my office or just like this. We'll be on the phone and you'll look at my screen kind of like you're looking at now. And we'll just start, cranking it out and figuring out what we can do. I do meetings from Tuesday to Friday, 10:15 to 6:15. So, and I'll want to know what grade your student is in order to make sure that I have enough time to help you. Okay, hope that makes sense. If you guys got any questions, you can go ahead and type them in. We'll reserve a little time for that. You can also, again, you can see me at 100 Corson Street with a company called Heidelbiel and Associates, Haydelbiel and Associates. I'm going to be doing a keynote speech for them on Saturday from 10 to 1. I'll be up there from 10 to 10:45. There's going to be books there. You can get a copy of How to Get Free Money for College. And yeah, that's all I have. Or you can just send me an email. If you can't make that date, just send me an email and we can set up a meeting in order for us to figure out what we can do. Most of you should have my email by now. If you don't, you at least have my phone number, right? So, so that's all I have. If you don't have any questions, then we can wrap this up. I really appreciate your time and your attention. Take care, guys. Bye.